Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're just going to give everybody 30 seconds or so to find their way into the room. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I know everybody's always very busy. So if you can see all of us, if you can just pop something in the chat for us, tell us where you're joining us from this morning. How's the weather with you? It's kind of slightly blue skies here in Norfolk. We've got David in Aylesbury. Always good to know that the systems are working. Going to get my screen ready to roll for us. And typically now when you want it to share, it's not sharing. So we practiced this and the slides were working perfectly. So let me just try that again. There we go. I think we're working now. Can we see that? Okay, Matt?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, excellent. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our App Advisory Plus App of the Month webinar for March. We're delighted to have iplicit as our App of the Month. I'm really looking forward to the session today. We are talking about running an efficient finance function for mid-market organizations. We're going to talk about some of the challenges, some of the efficiency opportunities, and equally some of the inefficiencies that we find as clients and organizations grow and the changes that they need in their finance function to maintain that ability to grow and scale. So quick introductions and housekeeping. So for everybody that's with us, the plan is that this is certainly going to be done by 11:30. We normally try and keep these to about 45 minutes. So if anybody has got something on the half hour, we're done and you've got time to grab a drink or whatever you need to do. If you've got any questions during the course of the session, do pop them in the Q&A box. We will jump on those and answer those either as we go through, but certainly we've got some time at the end to take any questions that you might have. Any comments and general observations as we go through, pop them in the chat box, and we can pick those up as we go through the session as well. So introductions, those that don't know me, my name's Will Farnell. I'm founder at Farnell Clarke and co-founder at App Advisory Plus. We run these App of the Month webinars every month, and we try and bring partners along to share some thought leadership and what's going on in the profession at the moment, how we can better serve our clients. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Matt and Luke. So we'll get you both to do some introductions. Matt, do you want to go first? Tell people who you are.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Will. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Lewns, partner manager here at iplicit. My role is to partner with accountancy firms to make them aware of the iplicit offering. So if there's a client that fits, then you know where we are and you know where we can help. Previously, an accountant by trade, used to work at Azets as financial outsourcing manager for 4 or 5 years. So know the industry quite well and very much one of you guys, although I know I've been in the role 18 months. So how much longer I can cling on to being one of you guys will remain to be seen.
Once an accountant, always an accountant. You can't escape it, I'm afraid. So you're there. Thanks for that. And Luke.
Hello, thanks, Will. Hi, guys. So I'm glad you just said that, Will, because like Matt, I was also what my friends tell me is a proper accountant back in the day. So I used to do statutory compliance work. I now head up our digital delivery services option at Azets. So internally focused in terms of how we improve internal efficiencies of how we prepare accounts, what softwares we use internally, but also external focus where we deliver migration projects for clients and implement and train them on new systems that make their lives easier day to day so they can do things they like doing, like golf, and not sitting there playing with spreadsheets.
Excellent. Great stuff. And so, as you can see, we've got some real life experience here, of really understanding kind of how finance functions operate, both whether that's our own internally within our own businesses, but also for the kind of clients that we serve. So we're really going to drill into some of those challenges and things during the course of the session today. So what are we going to cover? We've done some welcomes and introductions. So we're going to talk about firstly, what does an efficient finance function look like? The whole topic here is efficiency in the finance function. So what do we mean? What does a good finance function look like, and what does it deliver? We're going to talk about the impact inefficiency can have on both the finance team, but if we've got an inefficient finance team, the likelihood is going to have a direct impact on the wider business as well. We're going to talk about the impact of technology. So as we bring in more technology, how does that help either efficiency, or actually, if we get it wrong, what impact does it have on further inefficiency in terms of what we do? I'm sure everybody's hearing all about AI and what AI can do for us. So how can we utilize technology for some of the routine work that we do that frees us up to really focus on that higher value work? And something I think is really important and often overlooked is, how do we go about assessing process? How do we understand what our processes do and need to do before we make choices around technology? It's kind of really easy to say, let's get some technology in and we'll throw it in and we'll kind of see how it fits with processes, and that's kind of setting yourself up to fail. So really important part there for us. And finally, really, how can we run better organizations with better quality data? Certainly we have some first-hand experiences of that just recently within our own firm, by unlocking data that we had that we just didn't really have access to, and the ability to rethink kind of how we operate our business as a result of that. And as we said right at the beginning, there'll be some time for Q&A, but do pop questions in the Q&A as we go through. If any of the guys here make a point that you want to pick up on, let's catch it as we're going through the conversation. So that's the plan. But before we go into that conversation, Matt, do you want to just tell people a little bit about iplicit, who you are, where you've come from, and what you do?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. So iplicit has been designed to be mid-market accounting software. It's designed to sit in the gap for those entities that have outgrown the entry-level systems such as Xero and QuickBooks, but maybe can't afford or don't see the value in the more larger, complex ERP systems such as NetSuite, Intacct, Microsoft Dynamics, etc. I think that quote down the bottom there really summed up really nicely from one of our customers where we sit in the marketplace. Xero and QuickBooks are fantastic products, but everything's got a start and an end point, and we're designed to pick up those entities. And if you just go to the next slide, please, Will. This is some of the reasons, and it doesn't have to be all of these, but some of the signs that you might need or your clients may need iplicit. So we can handle things like consolidation inside the software, so multi-entity reporting in any currency of your choice. We've got unlimited dimensions. You might refer to them as tracking categories from Xero. We can handle things like VAT groups, partial VAT, or even foreign tax reporting. Complete project and job costing tool, complete with timesheets and expenses, disbursements, and all that kind of stuff. We can also handle regular accounting periods, things like 445, quarterly reporting periods, whatever it may be. We've got things like stock and end-to-end purchase, sales ordering. And then there's other bits and pieces as well that sometimes people struggle with Xero or QuickBooks when it comes to things like high transaction volumes, or trying to plug too many systems and apps into each other, especially when you've got multi-entities on the same instance of the same piece of software. And then finally, we can automate a lot of your routine postings, which we'll come on to talk about later on, the importance of that. Things like accruals, prepayments, deferred income, etc. But that in short is iplicit, but we're not necessarily here for that today. So let's jump into the topic of conversation that you've gone through at the start.
Okay, and so let's start with that kind of one at the top there in terms of what's an efficient finance function. What does that look like? What are the signs that somebody is running a decent finance team?
Yeah.
And do you want to start on that, Matt? Do you want to go on to the next slide and start that conversation?
Sort of set the scene a little bit, I guess. I think it's fair to say there's been a bit of change in what finance leaders and finance functions have been asked to do over the past few years. The expectation has grown beyond just providing good governance and financial discipline, best practice, etc., to also be able to provide insightful strategic reports to the boardroom and wider stakeholders. I think it's fair to say the modern day successful finance leader needs to possess a diverse set of skills and serve as strategic advisors, not only to the entire business, but also be the flag bearers for wider global issues that are coming down the track, such as ESG reporting, for example. So it's therefore very important that businesses in the finance function start to demonstrate the value they can add to the business and identify bottom line growth opportunities. So this webinar we've designed to highlight the importance of efficiency in your finance operations and how inefficiency can negatively impact the people and your business. So this graphic on the right-hand side here, the Labour UK Labour Force survey found that 914,000 people in 21-22 suffered from work-related stress, depression or anxiety. And that resulted in 51% of all work-related ill health cases. And it equated to 17 million days of working days lost. And actually, higher rates of these conditions were found in professional occupations such as finance teams, suggesting they'd be more susceptible than the average workplace. And
17 million work days. I mean, that's mental.
See Luke's eyes watering if that was on a whip sheet for hourly rate timesheets. And 78% of CFOs expect those levels to rise.
Wow.
But what else is there? If we just go to the next slide again, please, Will. There's also three other main pillars that we think are impacting people's inefficiency or the challenges that they need to address. So the first one would be the recruitment challenge. I think it's fair to say the way that we work has changed forever since COVID. Many people reevaluate the kind of jobs they want to do, the sort of organisations they want to work for. On top of this, there's not necessarily been the influx of bright young job hunters there probably was. Probably fair to say accounting and finance isn't as sexy as what it used to be or as appealing to the school leavers. So with such a talent shortage of talent out there, it doesn't make sense any longer to bog your team down in repetitive data entry work. That is literally the definition of efficiency. And what's more, not just the younger generation, but us, we're all used to smooth experiences on our smartphone, having data instantly at your fingertips. So when we apply this to our professional life, that's what we expect in our job as well. And I think it's fair to say job candidates will be expecting the same from the companies they work for, expect them to be at the forefront of technology. And I think it's fair to say it's probably a part of the culture of the business as well. If you're not at the forefront of technology, are you at the forefront of other bits and pieces in the rest of your business?
Yeah.
When it comes to security, obviously COVID necessitated the need to be able to work from home. A lot of people stood these on-premise systems up very quickly via VPN type technology, as well as being slow and cumbersome to use. That kind of arrangement can kind of increase the risk of cyber attacks. So the move to true cloud systems where you can separate email and business operations, for example, has become increasingly attractive. And for many, having a secure web-based system gives you a remote system that you can access from anywhere, but also gives you rapid access to financial data, along with all your disaster recovery and business continuity plans built into the background as part of that service. And then finally, uncertain times. I think it's fair to say we're in turbulent economic times. There's high inflation, there's political uncertainty across the globe. It's more important than ever to have access to your data. You're going to need it whether you're battening down the hatches, whether you're expanding and launching into new initiatives. So being able to rely on efficient group-wide finance systems benefits everyone, not just the finance team. Are you going to be able to capitalise on that opportunity when it arises? And then, sorry, if we just go on to the final slide, before we jump into the sort of the conversation, these for me are the 6 main areas that I think the benefits of an efficient finance function can bring. So can you automate your routine tasks and postings? Things like your prepayments, your deferred income schedules, maybe your intercompany postings and transactions. How much of that time is taken up at month end? Are you getting to that part of the month end and almost regretting it in saying, I've got this 3-hour task ahead of me today? And the benefits of that can be seen, whether it's producing reports quickly or speeding up month-end close. iplicit ourselves did a survey of 1,000 senior finance decision makers. 72% take longer than 3 days to prepare their month-end accounts, and 17% take longer than 2 weeks. That's a significant delay in getting meaningful data to the people in the business that can make decisions, and interrogating that data. So the benefit of an efficient finance function is automating those postings that speeds up your month-end close, which in turn gives you real-time self-serve information that then allows you to optimize things like cash management and make those decisions of when you need to move forward with operations in the business. And then on top of that, you can wrap around things like better internal controls and processes, whether that's things like workflows, approvals, and bits and pieces like that, real-time bank feeds, safeguards against internal fraud, which will make all the auditors happy, etc. and then finally having one version of the truth, rather than having different systems or the tail wagging the dog. Have you got one system? How well are you integrating your products that feed all the way through from start to finish, so you can really start to interrogate and believe in the data that you're producing?
Yeah, perfect. And I think whilst all of that stuff is obviously the focus here is on those large organizations and what happens as they scale. But I mean, anything there is relevant to any business of any size, isn't it? In terms of,
Yeah,
look, we've got technology now that means we should be able to deliver that kind of real-time self-serve information. So regardless of what we're doing, these are kind of the foundations of the way that any business owner should be viewing the way that finance supports what they're trying to do as a business, isn't it? I think that's fair to say.
yeah, definitely. The finance function is a finance function. Debits and credits are still the same thing. It's just you might have different, more complex needs as you grow as an organisation. But at the end of the day, everyone's going to want this. And I think the SME market's been served and they've utilised cloud technology. But that mid-market space until recently, I think, has been left behind to a point.
Yeah.
That could have moved, probably have moved. And the ones that haven't moved, the ones that either can't afford the more complex systems or don't see the value.
Yeah. So Luke, I mean, from your experience, I mean, what's your view on what does an efficient finance function look like? And sorry if you got any comments on Matt's bit there, go for it.
I completely agree. I think that's definitely the trend that we're seeing is that our S of the SME market have been served. I think you're right. I think our low level, I say low, more straightforward conversion type work has all been done. What we've perhaps failed to do, I think industry wide, is then go back to those clients to go, is that still relevant? I think we're very good at reviewing processes at the start and we implement something 2-3 years ago. But as we know, things move very, very quickly. And is there a circle back exercise where we've actually disserved some of our clients or our clients aren't working in the way they perhaps could do now? AI is another good trigger for that.
Yes.
I think AI is a very scary term for people, but actually, if you sat down and looked at some of your processes now, AI is very much a part of your day to day, whether that just be machine learning AI or full automated AI. So I think there's certainly a gap. But I'm a big advocate of work smarter, not harder. When I was training, I cut as many corners as I could, rightly or wrongly. But now it's less about cutting corners and actually putting in the right product in the first place, because the corners are then automated and you're actually doing what you should be. And for me, it's about value to your business. If you work in the finance team, the data entry side of things will eventually not be a thing. So what value can you bring once you've got access to that real life data? And again, from an accountancy firm perspective, we serve our clients that are on cloud systems much more effectively than we do if they're on-prem or on a spreadsheet, because it's live. We're not having to calculate figures or forecast. It's all there for us. So that's the other side of the coin, where not only internally for a client, but actually their service from their accountant should be better.
Yes. Yeah, and should be in the operative word, because we know that adoption levels are still far lower than many of the vendors would like us to think, and firms that are doing it are certainly top quartile in the UK. So there's still a massive early adopter advantage for firms in that are effectively using technology. And it's absurd to think that, given that we were doing this stuff kind of 15 years ago, and like we're still talking early adopters. So yeah, fascinating situation to be in. But I mean, if we think about this idea of what does an efficient finance function look like, I guess what we're saying here then is a function that is able to do those things that everybody can still see on the screen now, is an efficient finance function. So the obvious question next then is, well, like why is every finance function not doing that? We talked about inefficiencies creeping in as organizations grow. So it's probably worth us picking up on that, isn't it? So I mean, you guys have both advised clients as well as Matt, you're now providing software to finance functions. But what are the things that kind of start becoming blockages in the road and start to create these inefficiencies.
Yeah, sure. I think from Luke, do you want to go? You like to talk then?
No, you go back on.
Okay. Um, I think obviously it all depends in what direction organisations grow. And sometimes it would be down to transaction volumes, just being able to handle that level of data, that volume of stuff that's coming in and actually being able to analyse it is an area where we see businesses start to struggle. Whether that is transaction volume, whether that's the way that they're reporting on their data, whether it's coming down to things like the number of tracking categories and dimensions they want to use, the level of detail. You then got things like if they start adding in multi-entities or expanding out to different jurisdictions, for example, and start operating in Ireland, France, or wherever it may be. So there's some areas that straight away the entry level systems struggle to start to handle. Yeah. And then I think beyond that as well, it's not just the organization that grows. These pieces of software change as well. So this is a process that you should be continually doing. It's not just a case of one and done. Yeah. So you don't just go and put a piece of software in and then just carry on doing the same thing for the next 5 years. Because even if by some miracle your business has stood still for that 5 years and you're doing exactly the same thing, the software, the rate of change of technology, we do 4 major releases a year, every 3 months. So if you put iplicit in last January, the chances are there's been some significant updates to the software that you're not utilizing since then. So that's if your business is staying still. If your business is changing and the software you're using is changing, are you getting the most of it?
How do we tackle that then? So firstly, how often should we, and this is perhaps one for Luke, how often should we be reviewing those processes to make sure stuff's still relevant? And how do we make sure we do it? Because it's like it's fine to say, oh yeah, we should do that every 6 months or whatever, but then we just get busy and stuff, don't we? And we kind of carry on and do it the way we've always done it. So I'm like, what should businesses and firms be doing to make sure it happens?
I think what they should be doing and what they have the capacity to do are 2 very different things. I'm very fortunate that I've got a dedicated team that does this day in, day out. But we can only touch X percentage of our client base at any one time. So we always had it as an agenda point in every client meeting to ask them about what systems they're using. Are they happy?
Yeah.
What are their pain points? And realistically, once a year is probably as often as we can do it for the masses, because we have thousands of statutory clients, compliance clients that we have to talk to. Realistic is a year. If I had my way, it would be at least every 6 months where we can go in and say, are you happy before they get to a year end?
Yeah.
Is there anything we can start to plan so that next financial year we improve your processes? Because we're always talking to try and fix stuff that's already happened. So it's very difficult to be proactive and get in front of the problems, if you like. So that'd be mine. I would like to do it more, but I think, as we've suggested, resource challenges are strife in every industry at the moment, especially ours, where we struggle to recruit the right people. Because when me and Matt trained, we'd be ticking banks, not waiting for things to turn green and pressing OK. It's a very different industry now than what it was when we all trained.
Yeah.
I think we always refer back to the 3/4 Ps, where people, process, platform. So are the people right who are doing the doing? Is the platform right? And are your processes right? What we see a lot, our most difficult clients to convince to change is the ones that are on on-prem software, because they take their processes from that and try and use the same process in the cloud tech. And it just doesn't work because it's not built to be used in the same way. And the 4th P, that's the contentious one, is price. Clients always want stuff for nothing or as cheap as possible. There is a balance between understanding what that investment is actually worth in terms of hours you're going to save, potential staff that you'll save because you're automating more. So there's the 4 things that I think everybody should consider more often than they probably currently do, certainly from my perspective.
And I mean, you mentioned the price one, which is the key thing here, isn't it? It's because for many firms, it's like they might ask the question and spot the problem, but it's almost like what's the next step when somebody says, "Oh, yeah, this is what we're doing," and you clearly see that, well, using a spreadsheet for that, there's an alternative solution here. When you're having or had those conversations with clients in the past, what's the process in terms of from them you identifying it as a problem to convincing them that it's something they should do, and what's the start point? Is that a process mapping workshop, or what does it look like?
So from us, we have a specific service that we offer where we go in and do a detailed systems review.
Yep.
So that would involve one of my team going on site for a day, or depending on the scale of them, 2 days on site with their finance team, and go, right, take me from your purchase ordering process all the way through to payment of that invoice. And we map out every stream of their core accounting, whether that be how they do their prepayments, how they do their fixed assets, how they reconcile their bank. I mean, and clients generally think that they're doing it because that's the way, because it's always been done that way, which I hate. But my worst example, I had a client where they printed their bank statement out, typed it in Excel, 8 columns of what the expense heading was, printed that out, and then manually posted that in their on-prem system. So they're reconciling their bank 3 times and just thought that was the norm. And all of a sudden, we've gone in and straight away they see value because they've saved 3 days worth of time every week. So we typically then, once we've done the review, we give them a report. And we say, this is what you've told us, which they then say, yep, we agree with all of that. We then make recommendations on the back of their current systems and where we see improvements. Our normal red flags are, our typical client would have 3 core accounting apps, one for data capture, one for the core, one for reporting. When it starts to grow more than that, that's where our alarm bells start to ring. So actually, is this still the right product for them? Because the more you plug in, if you put yourself in your team's shoes, do you really want to log into 5 places to do your day job? Probably not. It's 5 things you have to learn, 5 updates you have to keep on top of, 5 things that could potentially go wrong. So there's definitely flags and markers that we have internally that we go, right, we should go and talk to that client. Let's try and set up a call with a normal point of contact. And then we take it from there. But the systems reviews all come back as very positive, and clients immediately see the value in what we're offering them.
Yeah, I think you've summarised. Sorry, Matt, go on.
So I think it's a big animal as well. You don't know what you don't know. I remember showing people Xero for the first time when I was at Azets, and their eyes, there's that dawn of realization on the face of, oh my God, there's a better way of doing this. I don't have to sit here and do this anymore. And we get the same now with iplicit when we show them the deferred income automations or whatever, or the intercompany automations and stuff like that. They sit there and realize how many hours they're wasting doing things that could be done at a click of a button. And then that starts to come to the price. So, like Luke said, price is always a contentious point. I always turn around to people and say, yeah, look, there's cheaper products in the marketplace than iplicit, no doubt. Yeah, Xero, for example, is £30 a month, but you won't find our functionality for less. So that's the value point from that point onwards. Like, what do you need? Like, you only should be coming to us when you need us. We're not trying to compete with Xero. We're trying to be in the next bracket from that point onwards. So it's demonstrating that value at that point and going, well, look, how many hours is this going to save you? Oh, it's going to save me. We had a case study recently. They saved 30 hours a month in their first few months of using iplicit. That's not really properly embedded in at that point. Well, even if you say that's worth, say, £20 an hour, which is ridiculous, that's £600 a month before you've even started. £20 in obviously accounting charge out rates is ridiculous. So the value in terms of investment is pretty obvious from that point.
Yeah. And I think you kind of summarized it really nicely, Luke, in terms of, I think, what certainly a lot of the firms that I talk to and work with, they recognize that there is a big opportunity when it comes to system implementation and system advisory work. But it's almost like, well, how do we package it, and how do we get to a point where we can price it? And your approach is exactly kind of the approach that I take in terms of talking to firms. It's like you've got to have a product that you can say, okay, step 1 is we've got to look at what you do right now, and it makes it really easy to package that as a day rate job. It's gonna cost you £1,500 or whatever it is, and we're going to come in, we're going to do this review for you, and on the back of that, we'll have clarity around what we can do as the next step, and we can start to quantify some of the savings that you're going to generate from doing that. So it's having confidence to have an easy proposition, isn't it, to start that conversation?
I think you're right. It's absolutely so. We've turned work away where they didn't want that system review first; they just wanted to go straight in. And
Yeah.
what we didn't want to then do is implement something, because then I'm working at risk and I've got no idea if it's actually the right product or not. So
Yeah.
we either quote really high to give us insurance for the risk, if you like,
Yeah.
which then is not really fair to the client because they're paying over the odds. It might
Yeah.
be the wrong product. So actually that initial investment is the key part of any implementation, because ultimately they recoup that investment with the delivery part.
Yeah.
So that's always our approach. And like I say, we have turned work away where they're desperate to put something in, but when they get to the mid-tier level, there's too many moving parts just to say, yep, there you go. Because
Yeah.
things will start to break in that first month of go live, and then you're up against it straight away. And then the client's annoyed, pointing the finger at you. And actually, you've tried to do the right thing. They just didn't want to invest that research time, if you like.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of the points that we wanted to pick up in the conversation, isn't it? In terms of the impact that technology can have either in delivering greater efficiency, but equally when you get it wrong. I think it was Bill Gates that said you kind of put technology over a rubbish process, it magnifies the inefficiencies. And this is the problem, isn't it? That it's really easy to say, oh yeah, let's get another piece of technology because you don't want to be using a spreadsheet. But actually, if it creates duplication or it's an off-the-shelf product and you've got to find workarounds and everything else, which is kind of why we've got to do that process piece first, haven't we? And look at creating the right process and then saying, well, where is technology going to improve or enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of that process?
Yeah, we did that at Azets, and we do it still now when we talk to people at iplicit. We say to them, the worst thing you can do is lift your existing processes and try and plug it into a new finance system, regardless of whether you go with us or someone else. The chances are your processes have been adapted to fix a flaw in your existing solution. So the worst thing you
Yeah.
can do is try and lift and shift. This is a whole review from top to bottom, not just technology but processes as well. And it's then making sure that you've got the right people doing the right jobs in the right roles and all that kind of stuff, as well as having the right processes and the right technology.
Yeah. And I mean, on this idea of reviewing processes, so we've said that clearly it's something that we should be talking to clients about once a year. If you're internal in a finance function, then you should certainly be looking at it on a regular basis. An ideal world, we might say 6 months. But I mean, what's the steps? How can we do that if somebody's sitting here and they're in a finance function? What's the best way, Luke, for them to kind of think about, okay, let's do a review of our processes to make sure we're using the right tech in the right way.
I think it all is top down. So leadership have to have buy-in to say, yes, invest that time in looking at what we currently do. A lot of our problem areas are where the finance manager, if you like, sees the problem, but actually, because of the lack of process, it takes some time to get the data for the director. They don't want the investment in time to research because all they want is their month-end figures that take longer to get because there's a flaw in the process. So it's definitely a top-down decision where you need buy-in from the directors, owner of the business, whoever it might be, to say, look, I need X number of days to review how we work. And if that's not an option internally, I would absolutely go and talk to your accountants and say, can you come and do this for us? Because we are, in theory, impartial. So that would be my first two steps. Get buy-in from director to say, I can see a problem, let me try and fix it. Or I can see a problem, can we get someone in to review our systems to make us more efficient? I can get you the data more quickly. We can then make informed business decisions.
I think as
Yeah.
well, it's probably fair to say, sorry, I think
Go on,
it's
Matt,
fair
carry
to
on.
say sometimes those board level members of the team don't really appreciate or understand the process that it takes to get to those numbers. They don't know if you're sat there working until 8 at night doing something that's really manual. All they see is the output. And it's not that they don't care; they're just not aware of that. If you then educate that level of the business of what's happening and how inefficient it is, I think their buy-in becomes a lot quicker, and they're almost the ones that then start driving it because they go, "What do you mean? That's how you do it? That's the process. That's insane. We need to fix that." Because these people are normally the more entrepreneurial, commercially driven type people in the business. So that's the one easy way for me to get their buy-in is to really educate them on what you're currently doing, how flawed the process is, and how time-consuming it can be.
Yeah. And how do we go about building skills for our teams to be able to do this kind of new type of work, really, in terms of understanding process? I mean, and you smiled when I first said that, Luke. So it obviously fits on your remit to upskill people to do it.
Yeah, so I'm very. I appreciate this is very difficult for some. I'm very lucky that my firm have backed us, if you like, and said, right, you go and do this work. And my client portfolio isn't a thing anymore. My sole focus is client software migrations, as is my team. So we've dedicated resource to this type of work, and the team is growing. Our client NPS score is through the roof at the minute, which is really pleasing from my perspective. Our skill sets have to change. I'm lucky that my team are all accountant trained. I think trying to drop IT people into this type of role doesn't work because they don't understand the impact of. They'll see a saving of 4 hours, but actually that impacts your accounting. So I'm very fortunate that the skill set that I've got in the team is accountant first, but they understand the lack of efficiencies in software, and then they can go and implement. And then we work with our app partners like Matt, where things are slightly more difficult than what perhaps the standard implementation would be, and we lean on our vendors to help us do that. It can't be done. Well, I say it can't. It's very difficult to do as a side of the desk type job, which is where ultimately my job started, was client work, side of desk, do cloud migrations 2 days a week. Now it's fully dedicated. Everyone understands that is our team's role. So again, it's investment in your own people, empower them to be able to do this type of work, because there is certainly a need for it across the industry.
And
I'm sure we'll
I think
use your firm as well.
Yeah, and I think I when I talk about this topic, for me it's like if we as the accountants don't support clients with this, where are they going to go? And they might go to IT people, and they don't understand the finance data flows. And I think that's the really important bit here, is that we need to understand how this works, why we need data in a particular way, and as accountants we get that. So I genuinely believe that we're the best placed people to do any kind of systems advisory work where there's an element of overlap into finance systems. And it's equally a massive opportunity. I mean, I talk about the fact that I think we've got 3 big growth areas for accounting firms over the next few years. One is systems implementation, one is data analytics and data science, and the other is ESG, which I think is, and Matt, you mentioned that at the beginning. So I think they're 3 areas where we can get ahead of the game and really start to think about, well, what does the service offering look like there, and what do we need to do to do it. So conscious of
someone's
go
got
on, Matt.
someone's got to own bringing all of this data together, and I can't see anyone
Yep.
else in the business that's going to fall other than the finance team.
No.
Okay, ESG might not end up being the sole responsibility of the finance team, but they're going to be pulling it all together, I think, eventually over time.
Data.
And then HR will have to feed in there some of it, but someone's got to own pulling all the data together. And ultimately, even if you park ESG to one side, every bit of data in the business ends up flowing through finance one way or another, whether that's a prospect forecasting, or whether it's a sale or commitment or whatever it may be. It all ends up flowing through to your P&L and balance sheet in one way or another, or your management accounts on your reporting packs. So that flow of data and that integration of systems and all of that kind of stuff, and those efficient processes, and the one version of truth that we spoke about at the start, is imperative. It's something that the finance team have basically got to own.
Yeah, and we talked about this kind of added value stuff, and this is the kind of the added value stuff, isn't it? I mean, we talk about kind of what technology can do in terms of routine work, and David asked the question: is automation the answer to the recruitment challenge? Setting the scene for that, I was at an event, and you guys might have been there a couple of weeks ago as well, where a guy who was a former chief envisioning officer for Microsoft talked about some research that McKinsey had carried out. And he said that between 60 and 70% of what we do at work today, we're not going to be doing by 2030. So in 6 years' time, 60 to 70% of what we do today, we're not going to be doing anymore. So it's like, what's the opportunity cost? And what opportunities does that create for us to rethink what we do with that 60% of time that we don't have today? So I mean, thoughts on kind of automation, RPA, AI, what impact is it going to have? How should we be utilizing it? And I'd like to just kind of get the point in that as an accountant in an accounting firm owner in a fairly generalized practice, even though we're fairly kind of tech driven, we're going to rely largely on vendors to build and bake this new breed of technology into your solutions. We're not going to go and build a team that's going to be building a load of our own AI technology. So we're going to be reliant on partners. So that puts the onus on guys like you, Matt. But I mean, where do you see this going? I mean, you might
Yeah.
have a different view, Luke. I mean, Azets may well be investing internally in terms of building bespoke solutions.
I'm more than happy to put the onus on Matt. Don't you worry about that, Will.
I think when we was at Mazars, we had to say, if you think like a robot, you'd be replaced by a robot. Yeah, and it's fair to say that those jobs that exist at the minute that can be automated will be replaced. But one of the contributors to our trends guide actually made the point of, okay, look, we're using more technology than ever, but we're still employing more people than ever because you end up doing something else instead. And the point is, it won't take away jobs; it will create new jobs and replace existing jobs. So the people will always be needed from that point of view. There's always that human element that's going to be needed in terms of AI, but we'll be able to automate a lot of the mundane stuff to then make real-time decisions and all that kind of stuff that we spoke about already. But I think that's the key point. Is a lot of people are scared everything's going to take away jobs. People are employing more people than ever. They're utilizing technology to do the stuff so they can have real-time, quick information.
Yeah,
I think one of the phrases that I don't like is like the trusted advisor tag that we get, where
yeah,
if you asked people what that actually meant, no one will give you the right answer or an answer that has got any value behind it.
no,
My thing with AI is, yes, the data entry side of things and the mundane, repeatable tasks won't be there anymore. But actually, if you speak to accountants, what do they enjoy doing? They enjoy talking to their clients, advising their clients. So let the AI do the bits we don't really like doing, the mundane stuff that we have to do currently. And we
yeah,
can then invest our time in the valuable side of the business where we can go to a client and say, right, if you did X, Y, Z, you would save this tax. Or we think you've got a pot of this much, you could invest elsewhere, and give clients value back for the data they're providing to us rather than sit there hammering away at a keyboard. I made a comment at the event, slightly tongue in cheek, a couple of weeks ago, where my daughter is 8 years old. I could sit her next to me these days and she could reconcile a bank on my laptop if I helped her.
yeah,
She couldn't have done that 10 years ago. Absolutely no
no,
chance. Which is why if we get away from the easier stuff, we can then add real value to our clients and our job roles slightly change and everyone will gradually become more senior through the employment cycle.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, we again when we get that mundane stuff automated and driven by technology, it does give us that opportunity for the higher value. And we talked at the beginning in terms of things we were going to cover, the value of data. I mentioned kind of data analytics, data science as being one of the areas we're looking at, and having seen what we can do with this data within our own firm. Um, uh, and starting to say, well, the value that's had on us, that's equally a really valuable service to be providing to our clients as well. This is the point, isn't it? It's the how do we then go that next level in terms of taking that data, using it in a way that we can drive real interventions in the work that we do for clients. And I guess that's kind of what the future looks like in terms of and look, I say the future looks like, but it should look like that right now, shouldn't it? In terms of the tech that's available to us, if we can get that people process platform triangle balance right, then we can be doing this stuff now, can't we? We can be doing this added value stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep,
You're
absolutely.
both nodding. So
Yeah. No, yeah,
I agree.
for sure. And actually, this starts to get to the point of the organisations or the firms that aren't doing it fall even further behind. And that gap will start to get bigger and bigger because this always becomes the competitive advantage. And if you're not doing
Yeah,
it yourself, you're your own biggest enemy, your own biggest competitor. So,
yeah,
like, technology is so readily available and affordable for all organisations now. It's not just in the reach of the big, large organisations. All the
yeah,
SME can get accessing this type of data and information in real time. So it's a case of
yeah,
that you could be your own biggest blocker if you don't get out in front of this and address it, let alone all the
yeah.
economic uncertainty and the political stability and in the product, the area that you're operating in and marketing in and your competitors. This could be fundamentally one of your biggest downfalls.
Yeah, and it's the point. This opportunity is available to everybody, isn't it? To fundamentally kind of look at what is it we deliver today? What is it that we do for clients? Where do we add the real value? How can we enhance what we do as a finance team? And I mean, Matt, you started life running outsourced finance functions in firms, so you've seen the opportunity that exists for firms. It's one of our big growth areas in our firm, that we don't have to have a bunch of people sitting in a client's office to be able to run their finance function for them.
Yeah,
So huge opportunities for us, and the benefits of firms outsourcing that function to people that can do it really efficiently and effectively are like no-brainers. So the opportunities are there for us to kind of capitalize on this opportunity.
yeah, and then the key is for especially the largest firms who've got the biggest overheads, it's delivering that value add because that service is starting to become very commoditized and price driven. So what are you doing that distinguishes yourself from other people who are able to charge less than you? What
Yeah,
advantage are you bringing them? If you're a large firm, you've got this knowledge and expertise, and you can offer tax advice or consultancy or whatever it may be. How are you tapping into that and delivering that value to your clients?
yeah. Perfect. Conscious of time, if anybody has any questions that you'd like to throw at any of us, do pop them in the Q&A box. I'm going to start to think about bringing us to a close, so everybody can get on to their next meetings. But we always like to kind of highlight some of the key takeaways, key themes from the conversation. So really questions and things for you to take away and think about. Firstly, I mean, how well are you leveraging technology already to automate those routine tasks? We talked about that, and it's only going to get better with the evolution of AI. But how are you using tech? Are you using it in the right places to enable you to kind of really get that automation working on the routine, to enable you to focus on the stuff that's really important? Think about people. We said that the people element is really key here. Have you got the right skills? We touched on the fact that how do we upskill people to be able to have these conversations about the right systems, the right technology. And then finally, how often are you proactively reviewing processes? Luke said annually, but we'd love to do more. Resource is always going to be a challenge. And I think the key point that Luke made is that that's like every client. So we're not just talking here about your kind of mid-tier clients. It's like any client, it has a finance function to some degree. So think about what they're doing, whether they're a one-man tradie or whatever. There's going to be tools that will help them handle this stuff better. So it doesn't matter about scale. Have those conversations and really understand what people are doing. I've seen a couple of questions pop in a Q&A box, so I'll jump on those, but I will just leave this slide up while we do it. So this is iplicit as our app of the month. So if you'd like to know a bit more about iplicit and book a demo, there's a QR code there to do that. Matt, you've got a few guides as well there that people can download. Do you want to just touch on those and what
Yeah,
people
sure.
can?
So there's three guides on there. One is our trends guide, where we've got I think about 12 industry leading experts in there contributing for what they feel is trends for the year coming up, touching on things like AI, open banking, recruitment, etc. Another one is our efficiency guide. It's in a bit of superhero themes. So there's a bit of a play on that in there, covering a lot of stuff we've spoken about today. And then the final one is a checklist for when reviewing your finance function and systems, etc.
Great.
That'll take you to a holding page, and all three of them there. You can download one, or you can download.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. We'll be circulating for everybody that's on the call. We'll circulate a copy of the recording, and we'll include those QR codes in a follow-up email to you all as well. So you'll get all of those. So one of the questions, Luke, back to you, I think, on this one. I think the answer is pretty clear. It's a yes, but do you charge clients for the initial system?
As Will frozen.
He said,
I'll fill the space.
Do you charge the initial
system? Do we charge clients for the review? Yes, we do. It's an it depends answer. So typically we would spend a day on site and then 2 days to follow up to write the report for the client. Some clients, they don't want the report. They just want us to say, here's our findings. Most of the time we would do the report on the back of that, and we do an effective RAG status. So red, amber, green. And we would say to them, right, your purchase process, that is currently a green, nothing significant to change. Amber would be, there's an area of weakness here. It's not essential, but we'd recommend looking to change. Red would be, absolutely change that immediately. That isn't efficient. There's much better tools you could use. But yes, it's chargeable. And as I say, typically that would then reduce down their proposed fee for implementing said recommendation, because they've invested the time in the early days.
Yeah, and I think that the key here is that it's about having something that you can package and say, this is a review. We get underneath the skin, we look at what you've got going on, and we make some recommendations, and the cost for it is X. The conversation that leads to that is the business development element in terms of talking to a client, whether it's proactive or reactive. A client might come to you and say, hey, look, I've got this problem and I'd really like your help in terms of, is there a piece of software that will help me do it? Or it's you going out to a client and saying, as Luke said, at a year-end meeting or whatever, how's your technology looking? What tools are you using? Where are you using spreadsheets? How are you managing your day-to-day operations? And that creates the opportunity for you to say, well, we offer this service and this might be of value to you. So it makes it an easier sell. And you don't have to do it all. I mean, literally, there are people that will do this as an outsourced service for you. And there is opportunities for you to obviously share some revenue in that. So you might be able to do the initial bit, and then if there's systems that need implementing, you can go out to the vendors or to third parties to help do that. Matt, any comments on that question from your side, from what you've seen?
No, I just add in that I would encourage people to actually use accountancy firms for these system recommendations, because although there is a cash cost to it, rather than a time cost from doing it internally, these guys are aware of what's available in the marketplace. They've done their research for you. If you're starting from scratch here, it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of noise in the sort of app space, in the vendor space. So trying to cut through that can be quite time consuming. So actually, it's a bit of a false economy. So I would suggest that actually I would encourage you to reach out to the experts, because they've got a finger on the pulse of what's going on, and I think they'll give you a better and quicker answer.
Yeah, perfect, excellent. We are almost at time. We've answered all the questions. Thank you for the comments in the chat box. All that's really left to be said is thank you to Luke and Matt for joining. Thanks to iplicit for sharing the month with us as our app of the month. I hope the session's been useful for everybody. Thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. I did say I'd make sure you had time for grabbing a glass of water or whatever you needed before your 11:30s. So we've ticked the box on that. We'll send the email around with the recording. So if you missed any of it or want to watch anything back, you'll be able to do that. And we'll share the links in there as well for you to either book demos or download those guides. And I've taken a look at them and they're well worth a read. So do jump on and grab those. So thank you all very much. Luke, Matt, thank you very much indeed. Really useful session today. Thanks for your input. And we'll see everybody hopefully on next month's App of the Month webinar. Thanks all. Have a great Easter weekend.
Yeah.
Thanks, Will.
Cheers, everyone. Take care now.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.